Grouping tasks by project is one of the most important things that we can do. In fact, I think that should be the default view for our reports. We'll need to modify our getTaskList function as well as add additional information to our reports page. We're going to update the getTaskList function to accept an optional parameter. We'll name this parameter filter, since we'll be filtering this data in several different ways. The first thing we're going to do is sort, so we need to add an order by to our SQL statement. Let's set a default for the order to start with. If our filter is not set, so on our task list page, we want to only sort by date, so the newest entry is first. Order by, date, descending. If our filter parameter is not null, we want to change our order by. Order by, projects, title, ascending, and then date, descending. Now we can add the order by to our query. We're also going to start accepting user data, so let's change this to a prepare statement instead. And then we need to return the results. Return results, fetch all. And we'll use PDO fetch assoc for associative array. Next, we need to update our report to pass the filter parameter. Let's go back to the reports file and add a filter variable at the top with the other variables. Filter equals all. Now we use that filter variable to pass to the getTaskList function. This should sort the tasks by project, but there isn't really any way for us to see that since we're not showing the project. Let's add headers for each project. We need a new variable to track the project ID. Since we want this to start with a 0 as well, let's add that to the line with the total. Project ID equals 0. Now at the top of the for each loop, we'll add a conditional to check if the project ID is not equal to the current project. If project ID is not equal item project ID. If it's not equal, we want to set the project ID and display the project information header. Project ID equals item project ID. And now we'll echo the headers. Then we can add the project title. Then add the column names to the next two columns. Date and time. Let's see how this looks in the browser. Whoops, let's go in and fix that misspelling. We have a project header now, but let's add a total for each project as well. Back in Workspaces, let's add another variable for project total. At the top of the conditional that checks the project ID, we add a new conditional to check if the project ID is greater than 0. If so, we're going to display the project total. I've added some nice styling here for you, so add class equals project total label call span equals to project total. And then for this cell, class equals project total number. Project total. We also need to reset the project total. Finally, we need to add the current time to the project total, and we need to do this regardless of the project ID, but after resetting the project total. We reset our project total to 0 if we're starting a new project, but we need to add the task time each loop. So after our conditional, let's duplicate this grand total line and change this to project total. Now let's check this in the browser again. This time we see a header and a summary for all the projects except the last one. The last project does not have a project total. Let's go back to our workspaces. The project summary is only shown at the beginning of the loop, when the project assigned to the current task does not match the project assigned to the last task. We also want to show the project summary for the last project. We could copy and paste this display row after the for each loop, but duplicating code isn't usually the best idea. Instead, we'll use another function with our loop. First, we need to move the getTaskList out of the for each loop. Now we'll move this second conditional to the end of our loop. And we'll change the conditional. This time we'll use the next function. If the next project ID does not equal the current item project ID, then we're going to show the project summary. Now when we preview the script in the browser, we see a summary of all the projects plus the grand total at the bottom.